And welcome back, everyone, to the Pokemon Team Creation Series. Last time, doesn't matter. For this time, coming to us from Shadows82, we've got what is the Pokemon team of Unicron? Oh, God. Okay, the polar opposite to Primus, who is all about consumption and the pretty much destruction of everything until he's the only thing that remains. A planet-sized transforming monstrosity who is literally consuming the essence of reality through the multiverse is said to have consumed about 22% or a little above that of the known universe at the time of we meet him later on in the series. Yeah, this guy is kind of like the epitome of pure evil. So how do we work with this? Well, let me get one quick one out of the way. When I talk about evil characters, characters that are literally just designed to be evil, strategists or just like master planning, I always put a Malamar on the team. This is because this is one of the few Pokemon. Take out the fact that the Dark type is considered the evil type in Japan. This is one of the few Pokemon in their Pokedex entry that is actually said to be evil. Like straight out maniacal master planner type character. So how a trainer in like their world is able to mass train them, I have no idea. But even episodes of the anime have shown them to be evil. So yeah, it's one of the few Mon that I usually put on as a filler character or a filler Mon when I can't think of anything else for an evil character. And that's kind of what happened here. I had filled out the first 5, and then this was pretty much just the filler after that. But beyond that, what else do we have? Well, this is where a little creativity kind of came into play here. First up on the list, I went, well, actually, the second one, this is the second one that came on the list. The first one was actually a different one. I went with Eternatus, but specifically Eternamax Eternatus. You could make an argument that, similar to what I did with Tarkin, he somehow has gained access to that. Now, the reason I did this is kind of pretty basic in many ways. Its size is the big thing. You have an individual who, at least in terms of his actual lore, as a Pokemon team, he'd be shrunken down to a human size, all that. But in terms of his actual lore, is the size of a planet. There are no planet-sized Pokemon. There just aren't. The closest thing we have would be Eternatus, Eternamax Eternatus, who is huge. Like he's a giant storm cloud with a giant monster hand, which, if you angle this right, looks like it has become Unicron's hand. And also kind of, like, design-wise, seems to match. All right. But, yeah, this is also a massively powerful form for an already powerful Pokemon. Because its stats go into the thousands in this form. Now, and the stats for any Dynamax Mon go up considerably, but this is, like, huge stat-wise. And it theoretically could end a planet. It's one of the few Pokemon that does possibly have planetary level destruction power. Although that is up for interpretation because the only way it can have this power is to be in the Eternamax form. And even then, I don't think there's any guarantee it could do it, but you could still make an argument it has that level of power. There aren't many Pokemon that actually have planetary levels of destruction in terms of their level of power. It's really, of the over 1,000 Mon right now, it's a very select few. But there's that. But the other Mon I chose, the first Mon actually came to mind, was the idea that one of the things Unicron is constantly doing is consuming. He is consuming, planets, stars, the essence of space itself, existence. He's consuming it. And so Mon that have exceptional hunger or are consuming things to gain more power or to just rid the world of something came to mind. And one big one that came to mind is Necrozma. Necrozma is the light consumer. He is and we're just going to do that real quick. Boop, there we go. He is the one that Solgaleo and Lunala are fighting against in their lore. Obviously, in Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, he absorbs Solgaleo and Lunala because they represent daylight, the sunlight, and the moonlight. And this is the robber of the light. This is a consumer of energy. So I felt this was a good way to represent that aspect. Beyond that, too, because once it gets to a certain level, but once a certain requirement is met, it transforms into its real form, Ultra Necrozma, where it's the dragon psychic form underneath there. That can represent the transformation of Unicron as well. Beyond that, though, there's another Mon from Alola that worked well for this, and I went with Goodlord. Goodlord is said to basically always be hungry. It's actually apparently pretty harmless in its home world, but it's in our world, it is horrifyingly destructive. And a Mon that just never stops consuming things and is also very powerful would represent Unicron very well as well. Now, beyond that, we know that Unicron obviously is a machine, a sentient machine, but a machine nonetheless. And he's highly intelligent, doing calculations on both the past, the future, and the present. So he's never really caught off guard, allegedly. So I needed a very intelligent Pokemon, something that is more machine than Mon, but more machine than Mon. I went with Metagross, pseudo-legendary. It's capable of kind of pseudo-transforming, tucking its legs in and moving around, and exceptionally powerful. So with that high intelligence, I felt it worked very well for the team here. The last one on the team. Now, before I say what the last one is, let me tell you what the last one's not. Because I found out mistaken when I did the Optimus Prime team. I put a Magearna on the team because it is pretty much the only real transformer among Pokemon. It's in the shape of a Pokeball and it transforms and turns into Magearna. But I couldn't justify putting it on Unicron or by that measure any. Let me rephrase that sentence. I couldn't justify putting it on either Unicron or every Transformers team because then you lose the spice of it. I'm not saying it can't be on other Transformers teams. I'm just saying Unicron, it made no sense. It's a Steel Fairy type. While fairies don't have to be good Pokemon, they're usually depicted as much more pleasant and more innocent than what we have dealing with, I guess, Decepticon or Unicron in this case. So, yeah, I couldn't justify that. But what I did like the idea of is that Unicron's Spark can possess other machines. If Unicron's Spark, if Unicron's shell is like massively destroyed, or his Spark is damaged, he can kind of transfer his Spark. The only thing that can hurt him is the essence of Primus itself, which is kept in the Matrix of Leadership. So I like the idea of a Mon that can pretty much move around from machine to machine. And wouldn't you know, we got one of those, Rotom. Now, I didn't choose any particular form of Rotom because that literally is the whole idea of Rotom. Some Rotoms you could actually say, or some Rotom forms could make it onto the team. I chose not to go with this one. But regardless, I think Rotom works in that aspect. Plus, it's literally the ghost, and that's the whole idea. It's the ghost in the machine. And, the spirit of Unicron entered. It's kind of like that. So, as always, the last question I had for this team is, how balanced is this team? Now, there's two ways to look at this. With Ultra Necrozma, which also has a dragon typing to it, or without. If we're looking at it without the, without the dragon typing, then surprisingly, there's not many types that really run through it. Like, there's like 2 Mon on the team might share a weakness, but the 3 or above that share a weakness are kind of a little few in between. That being said, though, there is the issue of 3 types that ultimately came to mind. Because if I add the Dragon type to Ultra Necrozma, believe it or not, that really weakens the team. Because that stretches out 2 weaknesses shared, or a weakness shared between 2 Mon to a weakness shared between 3 Mon. And it really lengthened out the weaknesses. But let's look at this as is real quick here. We got a Dragon Poison type, we got an Electric Ghost type, we got a Pure Psychic type, we got a Steel Psychic type, a Psychic Dark type, and a Dark Dragon type. As it stands, there was only about 3 typings that really proved to be a problem for this team. Type 1, ground types. This is because Steel is weak to ground. Ground is Electric's only weakness, which I still don't agree with that. Electric, you don't just give one weakness to. Even Dragon had 2 weaknesses in Gen 1. It had Dragon and Ice. Like, why, and Ghost, granted, Ghost only had Ghost as a weakness, but then they fixed that very quickly. We got Dark and Ghost. Yeah, Electric is the only type that does not have a weakness. Or does not have more than 1 weakness, I should say. So I really take exception to that. And I love Electric types. I do. I usually have one on my team whenever I play through a challenge or a game, at least once. But yeah, I don't agree with that. As I was getting to, though, And Eternatus, being a poison type, is also weak to ground. So that's a starting weakness right there. 3 out of those guys have a weakness. Okay, not too bad. Then you got Bug. Malamar is quad weak to Bug. Dragon doesn't resist Bug, so that means that Goodlord has a weakness to Bug. And then you have Necrozma, which also has a weakness to Bug. Now, Metagross's weakness to Bug is countered by the Steel type. Steel does resist Bug, so I don't. Anytime resistance is put into an equation, I do not do that one. I do not think words here. I do not. Wow, why am I blanking on the word I'm using here? I do not count that type for a weakness. Now, real quick, I do want to bring up Fairy. Fairy is a weird one because Fairy's strengths are it's strong against fighting, and obviously it's immune to Dragon. Now, that means it's quad effective against Goodlord. It is ×2, and it's ×2 strong against Malamar. But Eternatus falls into a weird category. Now, its Dragon-type moves don't work on Fairies because Fairies are flat-out immune. However, it's half Poison type, which is one of the weaknesses and resists Fairy. So, I didn't want to really count that. Now, like I said, if Ultra Necrozma has a Dragon typing, or I should say, Necrozma has the Dragon typing, well, then I got to count that as a weakness. In fact, let me get it out of the way right now. If Necrozma has the Dragon typing, Ice is a problem, and Dragon become a problem as well. But if it doesn't, those aren't really that big of weaknesses. Like 2 Mon are susceptible to that, but that's it. No, the last weakness this team shares or has, and it's a big one, and that's Dark type. Dark type does a big chunk of damage. In fact, I think it's actually the biggest weakness this team actually has. Due to the fact, now, again, Eternatus and Goodlord, they're fine. But Ghost is weak to Dark, Steel is weak to Dark, Psychic's weak to Dark, and that's all that really matters. Yes, Psychic is there, but, Steel is there for Metagross. So it is not, but that doesn't resist it. It's going to have high defense, but it's still going to be weak to Dark-type moves. Malamar is part Dark, but Dark doesn't resist Dark. So that means it's going to be weak to that as well. And yeah, now, unfortunately, I don't actually have my list here. I wrote all the weaknesses down. I want to just be sure I'm not missing anything. Metagross has, on their own, Metagross has a fire weakness, so that's mildly problematic. Only 2 of these guys, Ghost, that was it. I knew I was missing one. Ghost is another problem for this team because 3 of these Mon have Psychic or Ghost as their typing. That would be Rotom, Necrozma, and Metagross. Malamar gets to resist it because it is Dark, so it will resist Ghost. But yeah, Ghost will also be a problem for this team. So while a lot of these are stat-wise heavy hitters, they all actually share a lot of weaknesses with each other. This team could actually get cleaved through pretty easy if you have the right Mon on the team with the right attacks. Like if we're going with like Gen 9 standards right now, you Terrastallize, I can't even say that. You Terra a Chansey, which is a tank, into a Fairy type. Half of these guys' attacks aren't even really doing much at that point, if getting through at all. You give it Terra Blast, which can do Fairy damage to a bunch. You then add on, say, a Metronome, which can do theoretically everything. I'm just spitballing here. Yeah, it would be. This team can get cleaved through pretty hard by the right Mons. But then again, you could arguably say that about any team, really. Though there are teams that have less weaknesses than others. Still, I digress. So this is my thought for the team of Unicron. But what would you do? Would you do anything different for Unicron? I'm just going to keep doing that. Unicron. Would you do anything different for him? Let me know in the comments below. Until then, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe. The box office may or may not be up today. If it's not up today, it'll be up tomorrow. This is just due. I have to go help a friend move some things, and I don't know when I'll be back to the house. So and they haven't updated the box office yet. So, and they don't do that till like usually now between at minimum Earliest, they'll do it around 2. Usually Box Office Mojo, though, updates more around 3 to 3:30 these days. Regardless, I might not, I'll either do it when I get home, or I will just wait until tomorrow to do it. Until then, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.